The Hornets play their first preseason game tonight. We'll give you a preseason preview. One player in particular on the Hornets requested a trade. And Doug Branson comes to you from a very special place on location. We revealed that next. Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. Real quickly, before we address what you see on YouTube, I do want to give Jace Medical a little shine. I'm sorry, they might not want it in this instance, but Jace Medical, today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's J-A-S-E, jacemedical.com. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you should subscribe already. You should check us out. We got David Walker joining us once again.
Hey, guys.
Candy King. Find him on Twitter at David B. Walker. And there's Doug Branson. Looks a little bit different. He's got what I didn't realize that his hair could be more luscious, but it is. You see it right there. He is in a yellow, I guess, like Hornet costume, kind of. Very Wasp adjacent, if you want to look at it from a superhero standpoint. Doug, you come to us from the metaverse, for those who aren't watching on YouTube, and you look incredible. Like,
thank you.
It's scary. It's 100% beautiful. It's both. Tell us how you're feeling in the metaverse right now.
Oh, I'm coming to you live from the Hornets metaverse, Hornets.world. They just announced this, that they have a virtual fan shop, Hornets metaverse, but I'm coming to you live on location, so I want to do like the CNN thing. Like, hey, can you guys hear me? You guys hear me? Someone's standing behind me right now. Their avatar. Is that David? Is that you?
That's me. That's me.
All right, David joining me in the metaverse. Actually, I can give you a better look at this metaverse. I can even walk you around. Look, I give you a tour of this virtual fan shop. We've got the big Hornets sign above me. Hardwood Classics. If you're into a jersey, I can hit the shift button and run around here just to make this a little bit quicker.
Come back, Doug.
Any questions? Any questions on the metaverse?
Doug, there is someone else in here with us.
Yeah, there is. No, there are a couple people in there, and so I have to imagine what that person is thinking watching you. Like, who is this? You know what's funny? Anybody watching this, I think they would agree that at least from the chin up, it does look a lot like you. It's unmistakable. That's Doug Branson, chiseled with longer, luscious hair in a superhero costume. So if anybody was in the metaverse, the Hornets metaverse right now, and they saw you, I have to imagine they'd recognize you.
Get out of my shot, David. Get out of my shot.
Get out of here, random guy.
That's me.
Oh, there's David. I didn't know if you were in the back. Yeah.
Well, hold on. No one's ever seen me on this show with my shirt off. So I could be chiseled. I might not be chiseled. David, get out of my shot. Jump out of my shot. Get out of here. But yeah, this is a very interesting experience, a very interesting idea for the Charlotte Hornets. It is making my computer scream. I would warn anyone.
Oh, yeah.
Whoops.
I would warn anyone, make sure your computer specs are tight. Make sure your phone is maybe in the freezer because it's going to get hot. But yeah, Hornets.world. There you go.
For those who also, David is trying. It doesn't seem like he is well versed in the Hornets metaverse as much as Doug is, but David just partied all up on him, and now Doug is dancing. Okay, I'm giving you a play-by-play of what is the most ridiculous action figure I've ever seen.
I think what we need to do is take this seriously and answer some questions about the preseason while I'm in the metaverse, while both David and I are in the metaverse.
David is your special friend looking at the side view. Okay, that's fine.
I've got the Jimmy Butler emo haircut.
Oh, please do. Let's try to be serious about this, attempting to be serious about this, but not succeeding in it. Let's go with the biggest preseason storyline for tonight's game. There will be 4 preseason games. This game is going to be taking place in Miami for Charlotte. So they're going to lead off with a storied franchise. At least last year, they were able to make the NBA Finals after getting in as an 8 seed. David, we'll start with you. Biggest preseason storyline that you have for all the people. What is it?
For me, it's always the rookies, especially when you have a high draft pick like Brandon Miller, who was the number 2 overall pick, how he is going to mix in with this team. It's exciting to hear Steve Clifford, seemingly say that he will play. We have confirmed that he will get some minutes on the court. So for me, I'm always looking for that new shiny toy, and I want to see how Brandon Miller plays with actual NBA players, because we've got a little taste in Summer League, but Summer League is Summer League. And it's time to get to the real deal. So that's the first thing that I'll be looking out for.
All right, Doug, doing the chicken dance in the Hornets metaverse. What do you think is the biggest preseason storyline of the preseason?
I think the shiniest storyline is Brandon Miller. David's right. I mean, everyone wants to see the new guy, what he can do, what his role is going to be. And I think it's even more enticing, right? Because Steve Clifford said that Brandon Miller is going to have a significant role early on, and so we're going to get a taste of that in the preseason. But I think the biggest storyline is still the guy who's going to drive this offense to success or, in his absence, failure. It's LaMelo Ball. Not only can he stay healthy through this preseason and avoid any Washington Wizards feat and keep his ankles healthy, how does he do in the ankle braces that he's got on? It's going to be an adjustment. We're going to see it for the first time in real game action. I want to see that. I want to see these improvements that we heard about in Zach Lowe's article breaking down the things that he's been working on this offseason in terms of his dribbling and getting into the paint and keeping that dribble alive and being more efficient when he gets to the paint. Can his rim numbers improve? Because if those do, then it's going to take him into, I think, most improved player territory. I think it can take him into all-NBA third-team discussion territory. The sky's the limit if he improves his efficiency around the rim, gets fouled more, gets to the foul line more. All the things that we were looking for last preseason, we're just going to look for all of those things again and hope he stays healthy.
I'll combine LaMelo Ball with another player I'm really interested in. I'll go with the pick and roll game like Zach Lowe was talking about and Steve Clifford have been talking about. Mark Williams, LaMelo Ball, are we going to see a little bit of that pick and roll? Is this going to be one of the, sorry to bring up Frank Reich in this situation. Is it going to be vanilla to not reveal
Haven't
too much?
Had enough, Walker? Don't you get enough during the day?
Oh,
my
I do.
God.
I actually do, but these are the only examples I have during Panthers season. So I'm going to the Frank Reich example of being a little vanilla in the preseason before you show what you really have in the regular season. A little bit different football is than basketball. So I'm ready to see LaMelo and Mark work together. I want to see how many minutes those guys are going to play with one another in the preseason. But that's my biggest storyline, the two-man game, because here we have the face of the franchise even still. And Brandon Miller, that's certainly one that's right up there, maybe one as well. But the faces of the franchise, right? LaMelo Ball is still that, despite having your number 2 overall pick come into the fold. And you also have Mark Williams, a first-round pick that we very much believe in and is playing a position and a role that we haven't had in forever, in like 10 years at least. So Those two working together is something I'm really interested to see how that is all going to work in the preseason. We're going to get a little appetizer before we get to the main course in the regular year.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on all those, the other thing that I'm looking for, I'm sure you guys are too, is kind of a delayed response is how does Miles Bridges fit into the whole picture, right? Is he the same? Because I guess you guys said yesterday he's not going to play preseason, right? So we won't know until November, some point in first part of November, like what that's going to look like. So obviously that's a big question, like overall, because if for them to get where they want to get to, he's got to return basically kind of, I think, where he was when he left. So that's the big question mark too.
Sorry, guys, I wasn't listening. I'm in a serious emote dance off with someone in the
That's
metaverse.
Not me,
it's not,
dude.
I know it's not David.
Me.
It's the standard avatar, and we're busting it out right now. We are going 1-on-1, 1v1 dance off in the Hornets metaverse. And I'm going to be honest, I think I'm way ahead at this point. Oh, he just pointed at my face. What is this? Hey. All right. Okay. So back to getting serious. Got to talk Hornets. This guy's got to get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of my shot. Here's the deal. I'm also excited about Mark Williams and LaMelo Ball playing together, but Steve Clifford has already told us that one of the keys to getting LaMelo some better looks offensively, especially when it comes to his pick and roll game. It's not just about, him finishing layups or getting fouled or anything like that. It's also about his pick and roll game. His pick and roll numbers in terms of points per possession are not great compared to some of the other elite guards and really, just guards in general. In the association. So how do you get those numbers up? And Clifford already told us that one of the things they're going to look at is getting him involved in pick and rolls that aren't Nick Richards or Mark Williams, that aren't 5-1, 1-5 pick and rolls. So I want to see him get some pick and roll situations with PJ, with Brandon Miller, if he's going to play some bench minutes maybe later on in the preseason. I want to see those opportunities and see what LaMelo can do with those.
Yeah, well, and with Miles Bridges, that's the one too, right?
But he won't. Unfortunately, he won't be in the preseason.
Right. Miles Bridges is the guy. Once we get to the regular season, that I'm excited to see that once again. But you're right, we won't see that in the preseason or the first 10 games of the start of the regular season. All right, Doug. It's the most distracting first segment I've ever had. Just consistently.
What do you mean?
Most distracting. Nothing, just my own personal thing. I'm just having a hard time paying attention. Why don't we go to the next segment? Let's go to the next, coming up next on Locked On Hornets.
You seem flustered, Walker.
Yeah, I'm a little distracted, but it's only me. It's just part of the sickness.
Well, listen, I am coming to you live from the metaverse right now where everything is beautiful and nothing hurts. But in the real world, stuff hurts sometimes, and you need some medications to help ease that pain. And Jace Case can help you out with that. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace Case. The Jace Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. You actually have that medication on hand. Jace Medical, make sure you have the medication that you need. It's simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Get $20 off on these life-saving antibiotics today from Jace Medical by using our code LOCKEDON, all one word, LOCKEDON at checkout on JaceMedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Let's dance.
All right, Doug has left the metaverse. We are now looking into.
Oh my God! Back to reality.
That's committing to the bit right there.
Making that jump right back into reality. There is Doug Branson. How was it, Doug?
What's funny is that before the show, David asked me, and I'm quoting him verbatim here. This is what David asked me when he saw me in the metaverse. He said, "How do you get to the metaverse? Is it a website?"
It is. It is.
And
a website.
I've never felt that David was older than in that moment when he asked me, "How do you get to the metaverse? Is it a website?" I said, "No, David, you go to the fan shop, and after you get past the metal detectors, there is a blue portal,
That'd be awesome.
And you just hop into the portal, and bam, you're in the virtual fan shop."
That's next season. I mean, it could be an app. I don't know what cool things are out there today. It is a website, though. Confirm.
Yeah, it messes when you walk in and the metal detectors scan you. It jumbles up all your atoms and puts you in virtual reality. And then now you are a member of what is essentially a Hornets video game, shopping for them as well, spending virtual money and real money all at the same time. It's great stuff.
Well, and real quick, the company behind building this metaverse for the Charlotte Hornets, we can't leave without mentioning that the name of this company is Meet Kai, which is just horribly timed with the news that we're going to talk about later on with Kai Jones requesting a trade from the Charlotte Hornets. But just bad timing or bad, I guess, just universe there.
Yeah. Not going to be watching Kai Jones a whole lot this preseason, I think. We were questioning whether he was going to skip training camp after they left him home for media day. And we know that he's not going to participate in training camp, and now we know he's not going to participate in the preseason. What are some things that we're missing here, Doug? We'll start with you. So we gave you our main question. We talked about Brandon Miller, most intriguing storyline, Mark Williams, LaMelo Ball, perimeter players with the pick and roll. What else are we leaving out here that you're going to be watching for this preseason?
Well, I think we should answer for the thousandth time the questions on Miles Bridges because people keep asking them, and you never know who's watching this show. People may be tuning in for the first time, getting ready for the preseason. So Miles Bridges will not be participating in any of the 4 preseason games. His suspension includes those games. He has been able to practice with the team, to be at training camp. We'll have to see whether I think it might be a similar situation to some suspensions that we've seen in the past, like with Al Jefferson, where he can practice with the team, but he can't be in the building like several hours before tip-off. I don't know if he traveled with the team necessarily, so there could be some situation there. And then these games do not count towards his suspension, so he is still suspended for the first 10 games of the regular season. He will make his debut on November 17th against the Milwaukee Bucks. Some other injury news that you need to know from this preseason game: James Bouknight sprained his knee. His timetable for return is uncertain. He is not going to be, he didn't travel with the team. Neither did Cody Martin, still dealing with a left knee injury. The complete mystery on when he will return. Leaky Black also on the injury list, left ankle, and Teo Maladone has a right shoulder injury. None of those players travel with the team. They're all out. Here's some good injury news, though, that we can talk about. Bryce McGowens, who rolled his ankle before media day. It was a question mark. He was kind of day-to-day. When was he going to get back into the fold? He's probable. And Frank Ntilikina, who had a hamstring injury during, I think, the run-up to international play, he's also probable for tonight's game. So that's good that we get to look at those two guys.
Yeah, and by the way, Miami and Washington, the guys that you mentioned, are not traveling with the team. They're going to be out. So a few players you'd like to see. Cody Martin, how would he work with Steve Clifford on some kind of large sample size? Not going to happen probably until we get to the regular season. David, what other things do you think we're leaving out here when talking about what you're interested in watching in the preseason?
Well, I think Frank Ntilikina, how is he going to slide in? It sounds like he may get some extended minutes here in the preseason with all those guys being out. But it sounds like he's going to be like the Dennis Smith Jr. of this year. But how well can he kind of quickly get into the fold? Hopefully run the offense a little bit. I think the Mark Williams piece of it is, you guys obviously hit on it, but that's a big one too. And just keeping everybody healthy at this point. But the thing I love about preseason basketball is it's pretty close, to actual basketball. Like, obviously there's not as many people on an NBA team as an NFL team, but the NFL at this point just doesn't even, try and make it look like actual football in the preseason, as evidenced by like the first month of the regular season. So I do enjoy a little preseason basketball to get tuned up. And it's not as many games. So it's kind of fun to get an actual sample of what things could look like. And, I can't believe we're here, guys. It's going to be fun.
I know. I mentioned that yesterday. Yeah. I remember one of the more memorable preseason games for me is the first one of PJ Washington's career, where he comes in and plays well. Like, we all remember the first game of his regular season career, where he comes in and hits 7 threes against Chicago. Hornets upset Chicago. They were not supposed to win that game. They did. Everybody left Spectrum Center feeling so good. We knew that there was potential for him to be good after watching him in the preseason right away contribute. So Brandon Miller, it wouldn't be crazy to see your number 2 overall pick contribute off the bench, starting in place of Miles Bridges. That's not going to be crazy. But I think I'm interested also in how the rookies perform outside of Brandon Miller. You have a couple guys, right? Nick Smith Jr., who we all loved after they selected him late in the process, was supposed to be a top 10 pick. Coming in, gets injured at Arkansas, not the greatest year, but Summer League really showed you some I'm a bucket type of mentality. That was a lot of fun. And then Amari Bailey, another combo-ish guard, maybe with a defensive focus. What's his role when he does get out there on the floor? How many minutes are we going to see from Nick Smith Jr. and Amari Bailey? No James Najee. Remember, he's still in Spain, so you'll have him come over next year, possibly. It's going to be those backcourt guys. So that's what I'm interested in. Nick Smith Jr., Amari Bailey, do they get much opportunity? And if they do, of course, how do they look in that opportunity?
Well, listen, there is a Willy Wonka golden ticket out of Greensboro right now in the form of this James Bouknight injury, and paired with the fact that Cody Martin, we just have no idea when he's going to be 100%. I think there's absolutely an opportunity for one of these combo guards to say, hey, how about the first part of the season? I sit on the bench. I'm ready. I don't need to, go to Greensboro immediately. There's going to be an opportunity, I think, for these guys to showcase that. Frank Ntilikina also has that opportunity. Steve Clifford has called him an elite defender. There are some sneaky preseason battles, and one that I wouldn't call a battle because both players aren't able to really participate, But one, I think, position battle that we should look at is that power forward position where PJ Washington is going to get the start in the preseason because the Hornets didn't even get a chance to look or don't get a chance to look at Miles Bridges at that point in the preseason. But PJ Washington has an opportunity here to say, hey, I should remain the starter. I mean, it's going to be the story, through those first 10 games of the regular season, and it starts tonight. PJ Washington making his case that he deserves to be the starter, that he deserves to remain the starter, and he has every motivation to do that because he has some stuff in his contract that says, hey, if you play a lot of games and you play a lot of minutes, you make a lot more money. And so I think we're going to see a motivated PJ Washington, even though he did get paid. He's going to be motivated to get out there and keep that starting position.
What do you think, David?
Yeah, I just, for me, I heard you guys talking about it yesterday. I think this team is built on the belief that Miles will get back to where he was when he left. And so that's, and Doug, I know you thought that if they start off hot or even 500, that it's going to be tough for him, or he may not be back in the starting lineup immediately. But I think as long as he's ready to go, that's their peak. So I would love to see, he and PJ work out some play together or figure out however they can. But I just think for this team to get where they want to go, Miles has got to be a piece of that. And that's obviously something we won't know for a while. But of course they also need PJ to play up to his level. So I think that's some stuff Clippers still gonna have to figure out as they go, right? We don't really know how it's gonna look.
Two more things quickly, Walker, that I think people should be watching for. The veterans, we haven't talked about Terry Rozier or Gordon Hayward. Steve Clifford spent a lot of time in media day and training camp gassing up his veterans, saying, look, these guys have been in early. They've been working hard. They've been the example for the young players. And now it's time for them to perform. So, you want to see big things from Terry and Gordon during this preseason that would give you hope that, hey, that's going to extend to the regular season. Wins and losses don't matter in the preseason. We're not really watching for that, but you are watching for performances. How ready are these guys? Because all we've been feeling are positive vibes. But now they actually have to go out and play. And as we've seen in play-in games of the past, you can talk about talent, you can look at it on paper, you can look at the shooting statistics, but none of that matters after you put the ball on the floor. Then it's all about what can you do? How do you perform when the lights turn on? And so that's what we're going to get to see from the Hornets, and it'll be super interesting. The last thing is defensive strategy. I want to see how aggressive they are in pick and roll situations with Mark Williams and Nick Richards. I don't know if we'll see a ton of crazy stuff in this first game because Clifford said that they've installed more offense than defense at this point. So there may be a little bit more disorganized defensively, but I want to see, do they do more switching? Do they do more hedging with Mark Williams and Nick Richards, similar to what we saw at the end of last season? And how does that affect their ability to defend the basketball overall?
Yeah. And I'm honestly, bottom line, I don't want to see a disaster. Like the last couple of times we've seen the Hornets on the floor, I know it was Summer League, but you guys remember how brutal those games were to watch. And that's not fair to put on really them or obviously this current group because, this is the A team. This is the actual coaches. This is the real deal. But look, with everything going on in Charlotte right now, you can't watch the Panthers. It's really hard. The last couple of times we've seen anything with a Hornets jersey on the court, the start of that has been tough to watch. So tonight, Doug's right. Wins or losses, that doesn't really matter. But some cohesiveness. I know it's the first game of the preseason, but I just don't want to see them laying bricks out there for 4 quarters and letting guys go to the basket. I want to see some sort of this is what we're going forward with, and let's put on it.
Oh, no. You want to see some kind of functionality out there. We do not want to see dysfunction. We can't. There's too much right now. Charlotte FC, even if they did get a win their last game, they even are going to tie most likely or lose if they have a tie and or a lead in the last, 5 minutes of the match. Charlotte Hornets now has all the hope because the vibes are good. But if they go out there and they get beat by 20-25, right. Hornets Twitter, NBA Twitter, they're going to make fun of them. We're going to have to talk about it on WFNZ. We're going to have to do the cliche thing. Great. Yep. Hornets are in midseason form, and we're going to have to do all that. I don't want to be in that space.
I can already hear it, Walker.
I know.
I don't want to put any extra pressure on Brandon Miller, but I don't know if you guys saw Wemby and Chet go 1v1 But, I think Chet had 21 points in 16 minutes. I think Wemby had 20 points in 18 minutes. Like, it's going to be a different situation for Brandon, obviously. But watching those two guys, and they're freaks of nature, and it's just beautiful. They're going to dominate the league. I could just feel the scouts in the building just like shiver. It just shivers running down their spine watching these two guys. Because how do you defend them? I don't know how you defend them.
It's like they came from the metaverse. It really is. It's not here. They're not real life. All right, let's go to the third segment. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
We're going to talk Kai Jones. Had an interesting tweet. Demanded a trade from the Charlotte Hornets. How realistic is that? We'll talk about it next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
All right, guys, it finally happened. It's here. Kai Jones. More updates, except it's not some emoji tweet. It's not anything like that. It's an actual, I think it's a real tweet. He put this out yesterday, quote, "I have officially requested to be traded from the Charlotte Hornets. Hashtag GOAT life." Hashtag GOAT life. Kai Jones puts out there. The first video that really goes viral in a sense of all of us paying attention to Kai Jones' bizarre behavior on social media, it was him talking about being traded. It was him sweating, dancing, writing on the wall, saying, in a way that was hard to make up, excuse me, that I don't think the Hornets are going to trade me. If they call, I'll have my buy, but I don't think the Hornets are going to do that. They're very high on me. Well, now here he is officially requesting a trade. Doug, how big of a deal is this?
Well, I don't really know how to answer that question. I guess it's a big deal in the niche sort of Hornets universe where we remember the fact that Mitch Kupchak gave up future first-round assets to move up and said during his press conference, like, I wouldn't have done this had Kai Jones not been there. So they made a big bet, and now that bet, it already didn't look great, but now it has completely gone down in flames with Kai Jones doing this on Twitter, which I think opens him up to that James Harden situation. Like, I think it opens him up to a fine and possibly a suspension. But there is no trade. I don't think there's any trade market for Kai Jones because he's not been with the team. Teams know that. Teams talk. Everybody understands what's happening. He put all of this out there for the public to see. There's no mystery to this. And so I just don't think there's any trade market. I think the Hornets are stuck in a sense. I think if the Hornets could trade Kai Jones right now for a second-round pick, they would do it in a heartbeat. Yeah. I just don't think nobody's going to do that.
I mean, is this official because he said it's official, like he's declaring bankruptcy, or is this? Are there channels? Like, are there actual official channels yet? I don't know. Like, that's the other thing. We just don't know what.
I think just by him saying it, I guess that makes it official. Yeah, I don't know.
It's pretty much from the guy's mouth. So if it's from his account and he's putting it out there, it's not like we have to go behind the scenes. Did he really say this? No, he really said it. Kai Jones really did request a trade officially.
Well, and when the statement comes out from PR saying that, Kai Jones is going to be away from the team for personal reasons, Kai didn't really comment on that at the time. So I think one could have looked at that situation and went, oh, okay, it looks like there's a mutual understanding that there's a problem here. They've mutually agreed to take some time away, figure some stuff out. So if you wanted to look at that in the most like positive and forgiving light, you could say, oh, there's a chance here that all of this works out for the Hornets, that Kai comes back, that he works his way back up, into the rotation. But all that's out the window now because it's obvious that the Hornets asked. It wasn't like, oh, hey, let's talk this out and maybe we both part ways for a little while. It was like, no, it's pretty clear now that the Hornets told him to stay away, and Kai Jones didn't like that.
Yeah, it feels like Kai Jones doesn't know that anything is wrong. That's what's happening. Kai Jones is acting as if this is who he is and everything is normal. And despite us clearly noticing a difference in his online behavior, the Hornets team noticing something enough different in his behavior to not have him attend training camp or Hornets media day, they requested that he stays home. Kai might not have known why, but I know that they have to be acting from a sense of Kai Jones doesn't really understand what's going on right now as we see it, as far as our perception is. And this is how Kai continues to roll on Twitter, Instagram, and whatever other social media site he's on.
Yeah, and like we're not going to hear anything else from the Hornets side of this, right? Until I don't know, something happens or they release him or there's a trade or something like that. And that's the hand wringing thing about this, is just like, you don't want that moment to come where like something ultimately occurs or goes down and they have to come in on it or something like that. But I don't know. I mean, guys, you guys have been looking at this day in and day out. It's with everything, with every instance, you're just a little more worrisome about it. I mean,
Well, now you're worried about Kai. I think you're even more worried about Kai.
Yeah.
I think you were worried about him from the
100%.
jump. I think people, there are always going to be people who clown, but I think most rational people who looked at this situation throughout this whole process have been like, hey, there's something not right here. Like we hopefully he's all right. And I think that's going to continue, because from the basketball perspective, I think there's nothing really even more to talk about. There's no future for Kai Jones in Charlotte. And I don't even know that this represents a distraction for the team, because, when you could get anyone to comment on it at media day, like Terry, for example, was like, I'm paraphrasing mightily here, but he essentially was saying, look, I care about the guy. He's one of our teammates, but we got work to do. And I think that's the mentality across the board from the team, is like, it's not affecting the rotation, because he was third string center, was not expected to get really any minutes in the rotation. And everybody has to move on and get focused for the preseason. So I don't think this affects the team really at all.
Yeah, I really like Terry's answer on that. Who knows? There's certainly been some conversations you raise an eyebrow at or might be disappointed in with when they talk about whether welcoming Miles Bridges back after him being suspended for felony domestic violence. I know there were some people about, a little frustrated with how they were dealing with Kai Jones on social media. If that was anything that frustrated some people. Terry Rozier asking him at Hornets Media Day, I thought that was a really nice answer. And he talked about how you do worry about Kai Jones. And I don't think it was any kind of selfish nature for him or the team, because you're right, Doug. Of course, this isn't going to break the squad in a way where they can't bounce back. They have to play the team, or they have to play the season. They have to play as a team and get ready for the season. But I thought Terry did a really good job of navigating all those feelings. And it's not the easiest thing to do in the world. So really appreciated that from him. All right, that'll do it for Locked On Hornets. That is David Walker, Foot Candy King. You can find him on Twitter at David B. Walker. And that's Doug Branson, back from the metaverse. You can find him on his Substack. It's an actual reality. Hornets Boxscore, everyhornetsboxscore.com. And there he is doing the Macarena in real life. Also, check me out on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3. Thanks to everybody for making us your first listen. Make Game to Game your second listen. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.